Attorney knows best. Intelligent interviews. Interesting insight. Intriguing information. Attorney knows best. Here's your host, Sean Bartley.
Hi, Michael Tolbert. Thanks for coming on to Attorney Knows Best today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, brother. And it's so good to see you, man. We're such dear friends. We went to law school together, and I always enjoy talking to you. So I'm honored to be on your podcast. This is a big deal for me, so I'm real happy for you, and I'm glad that I could be your inaugural guest. So I'm looking forward to it, brother.
Thanks for agreeing to be our inaugural guest. You're my first guest. Attorney Knows Best is aimed at speaking with lawyers who are in the know and other interesting people. And I couldn't have picked a more valuable or interesting guest than yourself today. How are you surviving during these COVID-19 times in Northwest Indiana?
Oh man, God is good. We're doing great. And I always tell my staff and my partner, who, as you know, is also my wife because she went to law school with us as well. Where you see lack or where other people see problems, we see opportunity. So we have really examined our practice from top to bottom and really just tried to be innovative during these times and try to kind of reconfigure how we deliver our legal services. And for the most part, we've been extremely blessed and have been able to touch more clients because of the virtualness of the platforms that are being used to communicate with clients. It doesn't take nearly as long or as much time to go visit clients because you can virtually visit them or have virtual meetings, much like what we're doing right now. So it's been great. Obviously the folks that are losing their lives because of this pandemic is not great, but sometimes out of problems there comes innovation, and that's what we've been trying to do during this time.
That's awesome. So have you been working primarily virtually in your office or working from home?
I would say most of our time is still here at the office because we have about 6,300 square feet in our office, and everybody's spread out anyway. So everyone is pretty much in their own quarantine pattern. So we're not really on top of each other. It's about 11 employees and they're all spread out. And even before the pandemic, my partner and I we always try to be cutting edge in terms of how we deliver services. So we always had the ability to work remotely, and we actually would do that over the weekends if we didn't want to come in. We have been working a little bit more remotely because of the pandemic, but I would say at least still about 90% of the time we're still here at the office live.
Yeah, I practice also, and I can't get as much done at home as I can at the office, so I always go in. And then that face-to-face communication with your colleagues or your team members is critical, and the nonverbal and timeliness of face-to-face communication, I think, is key in practicing law.
Absolutely. And we have just been flirting with a lot of different software. Like we're using very heavily Microsoft Teams now, and our staff meetings for the last month have all been virtual and different. There's technology out there that still gives you that person-to-person feel, but I do agree with you. I still like the old school kind of touch and feel of the practice, because I think that's the cornerstone of what we do as practitioners, to be able to develop personal rapport and relationships, not only with our staff, but with our clients.
Are you able to win new clients with being virtual, or is that more difficult?
We have been able to get some additional clients because of the virtual platform, because we can just touch them a lot faster and easier, and it allows for us to be able to get into that space a lot easier. So, we had a new client potentially a new client that I think that if it was not for being able to meet with them virtually, we probably wouldn't have been able to get on their schedule because of the travel and because of the time. But we were able to do a virtual meeting within 20 minutes and made a good impression through the virtual, through Zoom. And we were able to get new work from that client. So we have been able to pick up some business from it.
Now, where are you located primarily?
We're located in Gary, Indiana. And if you can recall, you remember from law school, I'm from Gary.
Yes.
I think you came to my open house. I remember you came to my open house in Gary. That was the first time you were in Gary, Indiana. But yeah, well, we're here in Gary, about 10 minutes away from where I grew up. So
right. So for people who may not know where Gary, Indiana is located with regards to metropolitan cities in the United States of America, can you explain the nearest metropolitan area?
We are very close to Chicago, Illinois. So
okay.
We always tease people from Gary because sometimes when you go away to school, you know, we always tease those folks that say they're from Chicago instead of Gary. And true Garyites would never, ever, ever say they're from Chicago when they know they're from Gary. But you got some that kind of try to sleep because it's an easy point of reference, you know.
Right. Right.
And, but everybody knows that the greatest entertainer in the world came from Gary, Indiana. So
get that. The greatest entertainer in the world is who?
Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson, without question. How close did you live to Michael Jackson's boyhood home or childhood museum and stomping grounds?
Very close. I was within walking distance of his home. Yeah, it wasn't that far away. You know, it was right by Roosevelt High School in Gary, which is you know, a historic high school in Gary. I believe that's where the Jacksons had their first talent show. So the house is is bundled, nestled right in that little Roosevelt area. So yeah, it's not that far from where I grew up.
Now, talk about having your practice in Gary, Indiana, and how important it is to the community, and why you decided to have your practice right in the heart of Gary, Indiana.
Well, you know, my wife and I, we're from, like I said, we're from the community. We're from Gary, and we met in the 7th grade.
7th grade.
We met in the 7th grade in middle school, and my wife was always very smart, and she always said she wanted to become a lawyer, and I always wanted to become a lawyer, which I think drew us close together. And one of the things that we did, even though ironically, we didn't date all the way through high school and through college, and we didn't get together, contrary to popular belief, we didn't get together until much later in life. But we always had the interest of opening up a business in Gary and opening up a law firm. So once we started to practice, and she went to another firm, I went to another firm, we saved our money, and you know, we prayed to God for the timing to be able to open up a law firm in Gary. That timing was right. Once he spoke to us, then we did the research first, and one of the things that was revealed to us was that just like in most urban areas, like Gary, like Chicago, parts of Birmingham, you have certain services that are not provided. So one of the big issues in Gary is that we have a food desert. So if you want fresh fruit or you know, healthy food, you just can't get it in Gary for the most part. There are a couple of places that you can get some food, but most of the stuff is not really healthy for you to eat. It's the same with law firms. At least what we discovered is, if you wanted to get a lawyer outside of a family law lawyer or a criminal lawyer, you had to go south. We say South County, which is in Maryville, Indiana, Crown Point, and some of the other southern counties to get you a lawyer. If you had a business dispute, if you wanted a mediation, if you wanted a mediator, you had to go to Crown Point. If you had a high-end personal injury case, you had to go to Crown Point or Maryville or wherever the lawyers were.
And is Maryville the city seat of the county?
No, Maryville is a town.
Is a town, okay.
Yeah, so Maryville is a town. And Hammond, Indiana is actually, by all accounts, by the census, the last census that was taken, Hammond actually overtook Gary in terms of population. But for years, Gary, Indiana was the largest city pretty much in this area. It had at one point it had way over 100,000, but the population has declined. So so you have 80,000 people in Gary, and you don't have. We found that you didn't have a law firm to service some of the more unique needs, business disputes, high-end personal injury, those things. So we basically wanted to offer those services because in the firms that we came from, we developed those skills to handle corporate clients, to handle business transactions, to handle trust and estates, all the things that some of the bigger, more business type lawyers were doing. We had those skills that we're able to do. So we said, hey, the citizens of the community of Gary deserve this service, and we wanted to offer it. And that's what we've been doing since 2015.
That's awesome. So since 2015, you opened in Gary and you've been successfully practicing in Gary, but you've been practicing law now for how many years?
We just had our 20th anniversary in November.
So you were well seasoned before you opened up your law firm, correct?
Yeah. And I always tell young lawyers, because I think we live in a microwave age.
Yeah.
And you can speak to this because, you're a great seasoned lawyer as well. And you know how hard the practice is. The practice is not easy. It's getting more complicated.
It's more complicated.
So, maybe 30, 40 years ago, you used to be able to kind of get out of law school and hang your own shingle. But I don't think that's the case anymore. You need startup capital. You need a network. You need all these different things to be able to service clients. And, I had to learn over the years of practicing at another place how the business of law worked.
Right.
I knew the technical part, but how does the business work? How do I get clients? How do I keep clients? How do I make sure my trust account is right and I'm not commingling funds?
Right.
All these things that you learn or that you should learn, when you're practicing, because they don't teach you that in law school.
They teach you no business in law school. Zero. I always tell my front desk person or any new person that works for me, I hate to reference popular music culture, but it's so relevant because at the end of the day, lawyers, we practice, but we're also selling. And so when that phone rings, I say money calls.
That's right.
Be it a the adversary on your other side or a new potential client. It's like we're so heavily reliant upon communications. And I had the pleasure of working for some tough law firms. And I say the pleasure of working for tough law firms. It wasn't pleasurable back then, but because of what I learned in working for those tough law firms, it now allows me to have a successful practice like yourself, because I got to learn on someone else's dime while making them money. And now it translates into me making money.
Absolutely. It's the same. Yeah, I had the same experience,
Right.
It wasn't fun when we were going through it, but
no, not fun going through it.
A lot of the training that we got from those, I call them hazing experiences. We run our businesses and with a lot of those hardened skills that we learned at other places, And
yeah, I always tell my clients, especially a client that might be transitioning from one attorney to me for one reason or another, I always tell them there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat. And that the law is black letter, but resolving the problem is not black letter. There's more ways to resolve an issue or a problem using the law, and that there's not one steadfast way in resolving an adversarial problem.
That's so true. And I got to share a funny story on your podcast, because you probably don't know this, but I remember we were in law school. We were in business drafting. You remember this with Professor Costas?
Yeah.
and the professor asked all the students, why did we take his class, his business drafting class? So everybody gave these very great answers. And you remember your answer?
Did I reference Don King?
That's right.
What did I say?
You said you took his class because you wanted to draft contracts like Don King.
Yes.
I still tell that story. That's one of the funniest things that has ever happened to me in the profession. And And it was so funny because what I thought was fascinating about it was I think he kind of was offended by it a little bit, and maybe the students were. But in reality, they shouldn't have been offended because Don King drafts some pretty good contracts.
The best for him, the worst for everybody else. He wins, you lose. I hate to say it, but I worked for a company and as the general counsel for a while, and the I'm not even going to mention the name of the company, but I wrote this contract that went all the way up to the Court of Appeals of Maryland. It was a mandatory mediation clause.
Oh, wow.
And there was no way out of it.
Oh, geez.
I wrote it so it was in the benefit of the consumer.
That's right. Yeah.
Paid something, and then they were bound to mediation, and there was no way out of it, and it got uphill. But I get no credit for it because I had to leave the company because I didn't like how he was running the business. Yeah. And but the clause held up. And it was kind of a victory, but kind of embarrassing because after I left, the CEO of the company did a lot of things that I think were untoward, and he exploited my excellent writing skills for his benefit and to the detriment of his customers.
Right. Well, that's unfortunate, but your good legal acumen and skill shouldn't be overlooked because obviously, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink, right? That's the old saying. So you did what you were supposed to do, but you can't make them do the right thing. So
right. Let me ask you a question. Now, I have a list of questions I'm going to get to, but
yeah, sure.
I was thinking today, when I was riding in the car with my son, sometimes we have controversial cases that we don't like, but we have to bring them. And our clients need representation. And sometimes the court seem to be offended if we bring a case that is controversial. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking to myself, what is more important? Is the court more important, or is my client more important? And how do we balance that? Do you ever face that kind of issue?
Yeah, I face that issue, but especially from the defense end and represent, a big part of our practice is representing insurance companies. Mm-hmm. So sometimes the position of the insurance company, particularly on a coverage issue, might not be popular for the reason that you just stated with mandatory clauses and arbitration clauses or mediation clauses that might not necessarily benefit the insured or benefit the consumer or however you choose to look at it. And depending on the judge and what their practice was before they took the bench,
right,
they could have, a certain feeling about what position of the case that you currently have. And by all means, judges are supposed to be independent, but just like jurors, judges bring their own perspective and daily living and habits to that bench. So I'm not saying that judges are not objective, because they are. For the most part, most judges are great judges and objective, but they're human. They bring their own perspective. So I have cases where, I'm sure it might not necessarily be something that the judge likes, but I think as a that's why clients hire us, right? They hire us to be able to explain their legal positions in such a way to make the person who might not necessarily like the position understand the position and respect the position. And I think that's really what I think I try to do in most of my dealings, if not all of my dealings, is my duty is ultimately to my client, right? To represent my client to my ability. But also a part of me is to make sure that I put his or her legal position before the court in such a way that it's respectable, that is honorable, and that the judge doesn't feel dirty when he makes that decision, or the juror doesn't feel dirty when they make that decision. And sometimes that's hard, Right. And that's not just defending cases, that's plaintiffing as well. That's when you're representing an individual and trying to enforce something. So I think that the good ones are able to cross that bridge and, make arguments that are palatable, that jurors and judges can understand. And you know, sometimes we win, sometimes we fall short of the mark, but you know, I think the bottom line is that we try to do the best that we can for our clients and for the judicial system. You know?
Right. I think it's a really delicate balance, balancing the court's prestige and the court's honor versus our client's right to have vigorous representation and have evidence and or facts that might be controversial submitted to the court, be it through motion, the original complaint, or to the jury. And
That's
it's tough.
That's correct. And I think one of the things that we try to do, and sometimes it's hard. I mean, you're an old football guy as I am, so we're aggressive by nature.
Yes, we are. Risk-taking aggressive within the bounds.
That's exactly right. So one of the things that I have had to learn over my years is that, you know, everybody has a family. We should not take any of this personal.
Right.
When I have a case with you, we could disagree about the law and disagree about the facts, but we should never take it personal. So I try not to take any of these cases personal. So in my brief writing and in my motion writing, I try to keep it outside of finger pointing at the lawyer. And sometimes that's hard because sometimes you got to say what people did.
Right.
But I try my best to focus on the facts and focus on the law and try to be respectful to not only the court, but to my adversary at the end of the day. You know?
Now, how long did it take you to arrive at not taking things personal? Were you able to do that right away? Because I still have a difficult time in not taking things personal because, you know, people will use to their advantage your immutable characteristics to win favor in the court. How did you move, or was it ever a problem not taking things personal?
I would say that I took things personal. I can tell you my problem as a young lawyer, and I have an associate right now that I'm training. Her name is Candace Williams. And one of the things that I try to train her, because she has kind of the same characteristics that I had as a young lawyer, is I love the law, man. I love the law to the core, and I study it. I think about it all the time. I read the cases. I read the law. I try to stay up on things. So my expectations of judges are the same. That you are reading the same. You're as passionate as I am. You should be as passionate as I am about this case. And you should study up on the law and points of law. So my problem is if a judge missed a ruling that I felt it should have gone a certain way, particularly on a clear point of law, it like bothered me, you know?
Right.
To the point where I just, you know, it would bother me, man, visibly. And I had to get over that because I think part of being a good trial lawyer is composure.
Okay.
And being able to handle, you know, rulings that don't necessarily help you, being able to work past those for the betterment of your client. So my issue was never taking things personally. It was more so kind of like not understanding that people are human, you know, like judges make mistakes. We live with cases for 5 or 6 years. So every little thing in that case, this judge might be hearing this case for the first time.
Yeah.
So he or she might miss a little nuance point.
Right.
That's why you have Court of Appeals, unfortunately.
Right.
You got to deal with it.
Unfortunately. One of the things that I'm always satisfied with judges is a well-read judge, a judge who actually went through the case file, a judge who cares, and their clerk cares, their legal assistant cares, and they read the file and they're prepared to listen to any nuance that you might be able to convey an oral argument that might not have come across in your writings, and then also have the opportunity for the judge to ask you questions for clarification and understanding. And if they do that, even if they decide against me, I'm satisfied because they did their part. But when they don't do their part, sometimes it can be very disheartening.
Right. And that's what I had to get over, because for me, I had to realize that everybody is not going to approach, you know, like my wife always teases me. It's like, everybody doesn't stay up all night and read these cases like you do, you know? So my expectations were like, hey man, I'm a lawyer, you're a lawyer, you're a judge. Like, you need to take this serious and you need to know every little nuance, you know. And if you didn't, I had problems with you, you know. But over the years, I've softened a lot because I understand that what I've learned is that judges are busy, man. They are extremely busy, and they have case files and not only that, but they have lives too that they have to deal with. So, you know, I've relaxed that on that a little bit, and but I still do like a well-read judge that takes the craft serious and read. It's nothing like when that judge hits the bench and the first thing they say is, "I've read the briefs."
Yeah,
you know what I mean, because that tells me
asking questions right away. Then I'm excited. Yeah,
exactly. You know, so but I don't get offended if they don't read the briefs anymore. I just, hey man, you know, as long as I do my job, I put my hands in God, my faith in God's hands. That's all I can do. And as long as I know I'm prepared to give my client the best possible way to achieve the best possible resolution, then I'm okay with that. You know,
right. You mentioned a couple of things I want to visit. One is your experience in playing athletics, major college football, and how that translates to the law. And then also want to visit your wife, who's your business partner, your legal partner, and colleague. Yeah. So tell the folks about your athletic experience.
Well, I always laugh. I tell people all the time, and I think I put a post on Facebook because my staff, they just think I'm like a nerd, you know. They don't think they don't think I played anything. They don't think I can hoop or play football. So if you look, you probably can't.
I remember the first time I played basketball with you, I was like, "How are you not D1?" And your first step was amazing. Your eye-hand coordination and your ability to close off the lane on defense was amazing. Ball you were pointing to.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, that's a picture of me in college playing football. Okay. So I brought that to the office because I wanted everybody to see, because they thought I was just making stuff up, you know.
Right.
But yeah, but I play sports. I come from a very sports crazed family. You know, my dad had a tryout with the Bulls.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he had a try. My dad's like, you know, my dad's a big man. He's like 6'6", you know, big dude. And played when he was in school. He played 3 different sports. Wow. And that carried over to all his kids. So all my sisters played. My one sister played college basketball.
Really? Where?
She went to Vincennes. She went to junior college. And
is that in Texas, Vincennes?
Vincennes is in Indiana.
In Indiana, okay.
Yeah. So, and then my brother played football. My little brother. So I come from a basically athletic family. So from the time basically that I was out of the womb, I've been playing sports. So, and I played basketball, which was really my first love. And then I ended up going to college. I ended up going to college for football. So I went to Valparaiso University. I played football there for 4 years. I was an All-American.
Wow, you didn't even tell me that, man. You're so humble. I remember coming over your house for your party, and your garage was filled with trophies. Yeah. And I said, man, you were an All-American at Valpo.
Yeah, I was an All-American wide receiver at Valpo. And you know, but it's funny.
No idea.
What was that? Yeah, because football really wasn't my love. So people were like, you know, you're not going to try to play like pro. And I'm like, man, I'm done. Once I got done with football, I wanted to become a lawyer. And it was one of those things where I felt like if the NFL didn't come knocking on my door, which they did because I was at Valpo, then I wasn't going to go looking either. I didn't have that desire and burn to go knocking on the NFL's door. So, you know, I ended my football career, went right into law school from there, and the rest is history. You know, my wife, Shelice, and I, like I said, we grew up together, but we ended up, ironically, at the same law school. And, you know, it's funny because a lot of the things, and you could attest to this, a lot of what we learn in sports carries over into business.
Yes, it does.
So like the work ethic, the, you know, practices, and, you know, making sure that the job is done. You know, one of my coaches used to have one of the famous lines that I use here at the office, and he used to say, the lines mean something. you know. So
Yes, they do.
step on the line, you know. And
That's
so
what I never heard. That's never what I heard.
Yeah, he would always say that, and so I always, and what I took that to mean was the rules. Like, you got to follow the rules, and you have to do things right. That line means something. You can't just step on the line and not think you're going to turn the ball over.
Right.
So, you know, I carry a lot of like sports into my practice in terms of competitiveness and in terms of mostly where it affects me is preparation, because as you know from playing, you know, collegiate sports, the preparation is just insane.
Yes, it is.
It's insane, man. Like I remember when I got the Valpo and I wasn't playing sports anymore, Shelice was like, "What are you doing studying so much?" And I'm like, "Man, I got all this free time." You know, you know what I mean? I wasn't practicing. I wasn't, you know, lifting weights. I'm like, man, I'm like thinking to myself, how can you not get your work done just being a student? You know?
Well, let me tell you, show my experience at Maryland. I was a scholar athlete, so to speak, but I had a hard time transitioning from like a sheltered home, military fundamental Christian home, going to big time college athletics, which is a mind bender for somebody like me who was from a sheltered home. .3.9 scholar athlete because I could study.
That's right.
and I always point out to my wife and friends, I'm like, you want to see a smart guy? Go get a college athlete who had a 3.0 or better, because they had less than half the time to study and still got a better than average GPA.
Amen. That's true.
So an attorney like you who played college sports and you're able to balance your personal life with your practice, and then also have the dedication and skill to put in the work and balance your personal life, is something that I'm sure benefits your clients.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you said it. I mean, it's like the preparation that goes into being a student athlete and playing any type of sport on any level, whether it be D1, D1 AA, Division II, Division III, the process is the same. The meticulous preparation is the same. And, you know, that's why when I interview people, I always ask them, did you play a sport? I want to know.
Same question. Same question.
I want to know, because if you play the sport, you know a lot about life, you know a lot about teamwork, and the one thing that you know about is pressure.
Right.
Like, you know, like I don't like the coaches that I had in my life over the years were just great coaches, but man, the mental hazing that they would put us through.
Right.
Like, so when a judge tells me something, it's nothing compared to what Coach Trikoff or Coach Bunda or Coach Horn or any of my coaches, what they would say to us or what they would do to us, you know. And a lot of the stuff they did that we went through was not legal today.
No water till you do it.
Oh my goodness.
No water.
Oh my goodness.
Don't get water. You know, you can't even do that now.
Yeah, so
you'll get killed. One of the sayings that helps me in my practice from playing college athletics is on a football field is keep your head on a swivel. And my team members at the office and other people I work with, they go, "What does keep your head on a swivel mean?" I said, just when you think everything is going right, just when you think you have all the facts, just when you think that it's going to go this way, and just as you are set in your one-track mind to execute and make the play, somebody comes from the blind side with something you're not ready for.
Oh my goodness.
So you got to keep your head on a swivel and be prepared to expect the unexpected. Has there ever been a time where you were prepared to for something was unexpected and you were able to meet it and rebuff it?
Yeah, it happens all the time, in our practice, particularly in trial. Because witnesses never end up saying what you think they're going to say or quite how you think they're going to
say. One.
That's right. So you have to be able, and like I said, I'm training an associate right now, and I think the younger generation is a lot different than we were,
right?
And because even the sports were different when they were coming up. So, everybody got a trophy, everybody gets a trophy, it's just a different mentality. So when you talk about keep your head on a swivel or, expected, unexpected, these are things that are completely foreign to most younger folks. So I think we've developed a skill of being able to adjust, adapt, and adjust, whereas that has to be taught to the younger lawyers that are coming after us. You have to tell them that, hey, what you see in the book or the case file that you got, keep your head on a swivel because it could change. And if it changes, you can't say, well, Judge, I prepare for this type of case. You have to be ready for the case that ultimately is revealed to the jury. And you just have to be very creative, be good on your feet, and be putty. You got to be able to be putty.
Right, putty. That's a good one. I'm gonna put that in my memory bank because I think you're saying be putty is like Bruce Lee said something about being water.
Yes,
right.
That's right. That's right.
And he was saying, what is more important, the glass or the water?
That's right.
And the water is able to take on any form that it needs to take on.
That's right. That's exactly right.
That's a good one, man. You should coin that. Get a trademark on that.
Yours. You can have that. That's yours.
I'm gonna need it because I have a controversial case in the United States District Court for the District of Columbia, where my client wanted to go one way, and the court thinks they're more important than my client. So, so we got to figure that one out.
Yeah.
Another thing I want to touch on is that the name of your firm is beautiful. It's Tolbert and Tolbert. And a lot of times when people see the names like yours, the two surnames that match, there's always this presumption that the firm is either parent and child or brother and brother. Your firm is unique because Tolbert and Tolbert means what?
Well, first of all, the one thing that I am proud about our firm is that it's a faith-based, Christian-based firm.
Okay.
So our mission is to honor God by rendering compassionate litigation services to businesses, organizations, and individuals. And our mission is very important to us. And that mission was actually born out of a husband-wife relationship.
Right.
So Tolbert and Tolbert is a husband-wife relationship. And people, every now and then my ego is hurt because they think that's my daughter.
Guys who read the law late at night look older. Trust me.
That's right. Yeah. So people, so they will come in and they think that it's a father-daughter tandem, but I have to break the news that it's a husband-wife. But I tell you, it's a beautiful thing, man, to be able to practice law with your wife as your partner, because there are just certain things that I don't have to necessarily worry about. And this from practicing at another place with other people. That those boardrooms can get very vicious in terms of compensation, in terms of direction of the firm. And I know every day I show up to work that God has blessed me with a partner in life and in business that is created for me and that's going to make the best decision for our family. And I thank her every day for that. She's a phenomenal, wonderful woman. And not only that, but she's a great lawyer. So I could not have asked for a better partner. And
tell us about your wife. What's her name and where'd she go to law school?
Okay. Her name is Shelice Tolbert, R. Tolbert. You call her Ramona.
No, I call her Shelice and Ramona combined. So you get Shay Mona. And I like to also say Shay Mona Winfrey.
That's right. I'll get you when she hears this. Yeah, but Shelice R, Ramona Tolbert, used to be Robinson. She obviously is a lawyer, went to Valparaiso University School of Law with us. We all went to law school together. And she started practicing in a Crown Point firm, practiced there for close to 12 years before leaving and joining, us joining kind of forces and starting our own firm. And her practice is she's just a great lawyer. She not only a great lawyer, but she's a great business mind. She has a degree in business. So she has and that's what I always tell people. I'm like, man, like she handles a lot of the business stuff, if not all of the business stuff. And I have the luxury of focusing on practicing law, which is a luxury that I don't take for granted, because
it is a luxury.
Yeah, because she's practicing law and doing the business side, and I thank her every day for that. But she's just a great lawyer and great business mind. She came up with our advertising. Our we have a coin Strata-Gary, which is our advertising tag.
What is it? Say it again.
It's called Strata-Gary. We have
nice, great.
And our catchphrase is Strata-Gary. She came up kind of with that branding, and that has just been great for us. She's just a great business person. Very smart.
I always tell people, if you want a great lawyer, hire a Valpo lawyer.
That's true.
We were specifically trained, ready to come out of law school, ready to practice.
That's true.
And I remember studying with the bar with people who went to University of Michigan, Georgetown, Cal Berkeley, and they would always say, how do you know all the elements of every cause of action? How to get evidence in. And I was like, that's just how we're trained. And one of the things I like to point out with Shelice, and which has been my experience as a lawyer, is that African-American female lawyers are especially gifted and especially well prepared. And if you're going against an African-American female attorney, you better be ready.
That's right.
Am I telling it like it is?
No, you are. And Shelice is always on point, and she's a great lawyer, man. I always tip my hat off to her, and she's the first person I go to if I have an issue, if I have a question or I bounce. She's my sounding board, and I tell you, it's nothing like having your sounding board at home with you.
Right.
And a lot of lawyers don't have that. I have that luxury of, I could talk about my issue. Now, she doesn't like me talking about my issue all the time and taking it home, but she tolerates me because she loves me, and we work through and we talk about stuff all the time, at home, and it's just a luxury. And I think that's why we have a distinct advantage over a lot of firms in our areas because of that dynamic, that relationship, because she gets the same benefit for me,
Right.
I'm a technician, I love this law. I love the law game. So I'm studying it. I'm reading books all the time about it. And
wow,
that part, she doesn't necessarily do a lot of. She's not going to be reading trial books or anything like that. I do. So
there's different ways to skin a cat.
There you go.
Get ready. Yeah.
There you go. So if she has a technical or a presentation type of a question, then I'm usually the one to be like, well, no, you need to maybe say it like this, or you need to have this theme, or maybe you need to use a PowerPoint for this, as opposed to just saying it. And we balance each other out and complement each other, and it's a beautiful thing, man. It's a God gift.
Yeah, it is. Are you all competitive with one another in the practice?
Absolutely not. Yeah, no, there's no competition in us. We're partners, godly partners, and our job is to complement one another and to help each other, and we can't fulfill our God-given mission for each other as husband and wife if we're competing with one another. So we never compete with each other, and I thank her for that, and
right.
She never has to worry about me trying to one up her either.
What are your strengths that your wife helps you become even better at? Like, what does she help you achieve or focus on that helps your strengths get to a higher level?
I think Shelice does a good job of keeping me focused.
Mm-hmm. But you sound focused and disciplined already.
Right. And she kicks it to another level because even as focused as I am, she will sometimes tell me, well, you ought to look at this part a little bit more, or you need to, maybe this is the route you need to go with this witness. And it really allows for me to be the best version of myself at trial and depositions, and in any type of a litigation situation, and I think the focus aspect kicks up to a whole nother level because she's my partner,
Right. When you have your wife as your business partner and your colleague, is it difficult to trust one another that they're telling you the truth, or are they just patting you on your back so that your feelings don't get hurt, or they're trying to protect you? How do you balance that out?
No, that's a really good question, and I'm not going to say we have that problem.
Mm-hmm. It's not a problem, I wouldn't think. It can be because they love you so much,
right?
That it's hard to like sometimes step outside the boundaries of husband and wife and look at you like as a critic. So
right. No, I hear what you're saying loud and clear, and I think that for Shelice and I, one of the things that we committed ourselves to when we started the firm was we said we have to be honest with one another. This is the only way this is going to work. So like if I'm doing something that's wrong, you have to tell me.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you. And we have, for the most part, held true to that. We are very honest and open with one another about how to handle situations, how to grow cases. And we're just very transparent with one another. Now, I can say where there is a little bit of a, sometimes it's tough because it's not all peaches and cream, is that your wife is still your wife.
Right.
I'm still her husband. So sometimes in the law setting, you have to have very strong words, about a case or about something that wasn't done or something that is expected to be done. So like if me and you are partners, we're not married to one another, right? So
right, we can go home. And
right, so we go home.
Chill time.
Yeah. And if you don't do the brief, I'm like, Sean, man, you got to get this brief done, man. This thing is like, dude, the client is, but you have to walk a delicate balance because no matter how much you try to draw a line that this is business and this is, once we step in the doors of Tolbert and Tolbert, we're Michael and Shelice partners. That's still your wife. So you have to walk a really fine line because you don't want to say anything that's going to hurt your wife's feelings, and that's a consideration, or your husband's feelings, and that's a consideration that frankly I didn't have to worry about at my old firm. Like I could say something to my partner and be like, hey, I don't, I can say whatever I wanted to say.
Right.
I'm going home.
Yeah, you're a boss. Yeah.
But I'm going home with her, so she's gonna remind me that she didn't like the way I spoke to her in front of staff, or in front of whoever I said it in front of. So.
Now, not getting into particulars or specifics, was there a time where, and you don't have to say who was right and who was wrong, but was there a time where you guys were in disagreement on how to go into a witness examination or particular issue of law or a course of direction to take, and one side went out over the other, and when that side went out, how did you all handle that? Was it laughter, or was there like a mea culpa saying, I'm sorry, you were right? How did you guys handle that?
Well, my thing is, man, I am a believer, man. I believe in the word, and I believe that, God created us to be together in partnerships. And, the word is anytime two agree, anything is possible. That's the word. So there could be disagreements, but at some point we're going to have to agree and make the best decision. So there have been times where we more than once where I might think that the way to approach this deposition of this expert should go this way, and Shelice's way is different. And I'll give you a really good example. Like, Shelice is a very good questioner in depositions. Like, she's very concise, as a matter of fact, and tight.
Right.
Whereas I'm more long-winded.
I'm long-winded too.
You get to the same place.
I'm long-winded with you. So. Yeah.
So that works with some witnesses.
Mm-hmm.
There could be some witnesses where you got to keep them on a leash.
Mm-hmm.
So we did have a situation where Shelice was just like, Mike, you're making this way too complicated. You need to ask this, that, and this, and get up out of there. And I'm like, no, you need to like rake him over the coals. This needs to be a 3-hour examination. So I said, I'm going to listen to you. Well, what we ended up doing is let her take the deposition.
Right.
And she did a wonderful job, and it actually won us the case.
Wow.
Because the deposition was very structured and tight, and it wasn't like 3 hours long, and mm-hmm. I told her.
You hammered him in, and you didn't give him any wiggle room.
That's right.
With a lengthy deposition. Right.
That's right. And my thing is, the Bible says that you should love your wife as you love the church, right?
Right.
So, I try to tell her that I appreciate her and I love her every day. And especially in situations where she was right.
Right.
I definitely want to make sure that she's aware of the fact that she was right, because I think that's what I should do as a husband.
Right. I think you having a husband and wife firm is a unique benefit to a client that some of them will recognize and some of them won't recognize, especially when you're vetting issues at home off the clock.
That's right.
You're getting the benefit of, a cohesive unit that is working off the clock on their issue. And some of them might not recognize that
they're not being billed for.
Right. That they're not being billed for. They're not on the clock. They're not getting billed for it. And they're getting this tremendous, it's like two heads are better than one.
That's true.
My wife has a friend who's a nurse, and she often has to tell some of the doctors that she works with that I'm here to save your butt, not kiss your butt. I think you having a wife in your practice as your colleague, your partner, your sounding board is a benefit and an advantage that you all have over a lot of other lawyers, without question.
Yeah, I didn't quite look at it that way, but I can see your point, and you're right. We talk about our clients' issues 24/7, and most of it is not billable because we're at home, right? So you're right about that. Yeah.
Right. You've had many accomplishments, and some you can't talk about because you're in a highly specialized litigation practice, but some of them you can talk about because they're public accomplishments and public achievements. And one of the public achievements that you have is you were recently installed as president of the Indiana Bar Association. And I like to point out that bar associations are unique. There are only 50 state bar associations in the United States of America and official ones. And you're the head and president of the Indiana State Bar Association. How did you get there?
Well,
by the way.
Yeah. I always give honor to God, because I say that, without God, nothing any of us do is possible. So I just, let him lead, and, from the time I became a lawyer, which was in 2000, I joined the Indiana State Bar Association. I started at the young lawyer section and worked my way through the sections. I was involved in that section until I aged off of it, because once you get a certain age, then
what is the age there? 35 or
35? Yeah, it's 35. Yeah, and so I aged off, and then I was able to sit on what's called the Board of Governors, which is the governance of the Bar Association. And I did that. I want to say I was on the Board of Governors like maybe 3 or 4 times. And once people start seeing you involved in the Bar Association, And you know, I heard one of the bar presidents coined the term bar junkie. And I considered myself a bar junkie, which is anytime someone asked me to participate in a bar activity, I was the first one in line. So once they see that commitment level, then I was just asked to do a lot of different things, and I accepted it. So I was asked to be the chair of the Budget and Finance Committee for the State Bar, which is a big deal because that's all the money,
right?
Budgeting. So I did that twice. And then I was the treasurer. I was served as the treasurer of the Bar Association. And then I was asked to be the chair of the House of Delegates, which is a pretty big deal. And that once you're asked to be the chair of the House of Delegates, it's although and not in every case you would send up to the
What is the House of Delegates? Do you actually go to the Indiana State Legislature?
Yeah, it's like the legislature for the Bar Association. So
okay.
All of the local bars make up the House of Delegates.
Okay.
Just like Congress.
Okay.
And we vote on a lot of major, we take a lot of public policy positions at the House of Delegates that affect Indiana lawyers. If there's legislation that's pending that we want to, attack or address, we talk about it at the House. Bylaw changes, all of that has to be approved through the House. And it's a very fascinating process because that's where you kind of learn how the Bar Association works from an organizational standpoint. And you see the impact that all the local bars have on the state bar because all of them show up and they vote. All of them have votes. They have delegates. So it's a very fascinating process. So as the chair of the House, I had to run that whole meeting. And which could be very intimidating because you have 92 counties in Indiana,
right?
And most of them have bar associations, and they all come and all the meetings are not, everyone's not on the same page. It's just like Congress; they're fighting and spitting and
really,
yeah. It's
fighting and spitting,
interesting, man. It's interesting. A lot of issues that hit the floor that are controversial, and people fight about them and vote and speak and as the chair of the House, you basically have to manage that and make sure that the meeting is facilitated. So that was the last thing that I did before going into the chair. So once I did that, then I was voted in as the vice president, and then I was then you hit the slate. So vice president, then president-elect, and then now I'm the president. So it's like you have 2 years preparatory time before you actually take the hot seat. And now I'm in the hot seat.
Now, what are your main goals and objectives as the Indiana State Bar Association president during your tenure?
Well, as I stated before about all the bar associations and the House of Delegates and how the local bars kind of make up the delegation, one of the things that I really want to focus on is making sure that the local bars realize their importance. So one of the issues, like it's a very interesting time for me because, in the area that I'm in the northern part of the state. There are a lot of times there are not a lot of bar presidents that come from this part of the state. Even though, what was that?
Northwest Indiana.
That's right. So even though it rotates, the next time somebody from Northwest Indiana will be the bar president will probably be maybe 5-6 years from now. So during that lull period where you don't have representation at the state level from Northwest Indiana, people tend to feel left out. So the state bar is viewed really as a Indianapolis-centric organization. And some of the counties don't feel like they are very helpful to what they want and what they need. So one of the things that I have really focused on is trying to mend those relationships with the local bars and trying to let them know that the State Bar Association is here for everybody. It's just not here for lawyers from Indianapolis. It's here for lawyers from all over the state because it's the Indiana State Bar, not the Indianapolis State Bar. They have their own. The Indianapolis Bar has a bar association, which is a local bar. So that's really my big push. And then the other thing that I really want to deal with is creating a kind of a safe harbor or a safe place for our past presidents, because once I leave the seat, then and once the bar presidents basically rotate off, then for whatever reason they just drop off. They're nowhere to be found.
Do they become fatigued or get exhausted or what?
No, sure.
Where's the relationship? Is it like adversarial relationships that they want to avoid?
No, it's not an adversarial relationship. I just think it's just no place for them to go, because most of the bar presidents have held every position. So you're not going to ask them to be on another committee. They did that already.
Now.
Yeah, so
you could, it's kind of tough, because it's kind of like being president of the United States. The only next thing you could probably do is be like Supreme Court justice or something like that, right?
Well, what I'm working on is trying to find something for them. So one of the things that I think would be cool is to have like a president's round table.
Yes.
Where they have their own space where they could get together and meet, and
it would be like a presidential council. They would be able to share ideas and experience in problem solving and managing the organization. That's an excellent.
Exactly. So those are my two big things that I really want to focus on. And I think we're off to a really good start on the local bar thing. We've already met and kind of talked about a game plan for 2021. So we're working to kind of try to roll that out. We have a strategic plan that we're working on to try to make sure that we're in line with what our members want us to do in terms of the governance of the organization and how we address issues. And I think it's going to be a great year. Even during this pandemic time, I still think that the virtual platforms is going to allow me to touch those local bar associations faster and touch the people I need to touch faster.
Great. Your term just began during the pandemic, right?
It did, yes.
Like what month?
In October. I was
sworn. You guys had a public swearing in, right? A public event.
We did. It was actually a hybrid event. What we did was, that was one of my first kind of official acts, was to kind of talk about how to handle the House of Delegates, because the House of Delegates meeting is huge. Like I said, it's everybody that comes into the assembly, and so we had to make the very tough decision. And my thing is, I'm like, man, I just want to do the work of the people. I want to do the work of the bar association. So I don't need this swanky swearing in. I want to make sure everybody's safe. So that was one of the very first decisions I had to make, was we had to cap. We had a hybrid. So we had a swearing in, but it wasn't to full capacity. It was very small. And most of our meeting took place virtually. It was online. So people were allowed to attend our annual meeting virtually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now I'm get to a point of the podcast, and we'll be wrapping things up shortly. But you're a lawyer. You're good at giving advice, and you're good at giving insight. And I want to give you an opportunity to give advice, and I'm going to pinpoint a couple of areas I think are really important.
Okay.
If there was a young kid that was going to listen to this podcast, and let's say they're in high school, and they wanted to be a lawyer, what would you tell them? And let me set the foundation for asking this question. I didn't meet a lawyer, and I didn't really know what it took to be a lawyer, and the first opportunity I really had to meet a lawyer was in college. And a good friend of mine, his mom was one of the most powerful lawyers in Washington, D.C. And I was ending towards the end of my college career. I was entering the last year of my college career. And I was a good student, but I didn't know what direction I should go in, because all I focused on was being a good student. A lot of people go to college and they know exactly what they want to be, and they go to college and find out exactly what they want to be. And I didn't have that experience, and I didn't really learn about lawyering because I didn't meet any lawyers. And sad to say is my friend called his mom up, and I was on a three-way, and he says, "Hey, Mom, my friend Sean wants to learn about being a lawyer and what it takes. He's entering his last year of school." And his mom, I'll never forget what she said, and she's a very powerful woman. She goes, "What the hell does he want to talk to me for? He's just a football player." And my friend goes, Mom, he's on the phone." So after that, I didn't want any advice, and I was embarrassed. And I was like, wow. Little did she know that I was a scholar athlete. And despite my muscularity and my facial hair and high top fade, I was altogether good person. But what advice would you give a person who's seeking to go into law school or become a lawyer?
Well, first, I always go back. Like, I think that people need to really pray and ask God for guidance in terms of what they should do, because God will reveal what your purpose is.
Mhm.
And I see so many times people want to become lawyers for the wrong reasons.
Right.
Either whether it be for money, whether it be for prestige, whatever the case is, none of it is to serve the client or to serve people.
Mhm.
So my first step is, I would tell them, is to pray that your purpose in wanting to go to law school is a genuine step to becoming a lawyer or working in the legal field. So that would be the first step. And then, my other advice to them would be to try to, if you can, work in a law firm setting, if you can, to have that opportunity to see exactly what you want to do, or if it's something that you want to be around. Because I think that, my experience was the same, as your experience, which was, I didn't have any lawyers in my family. I'm the first lawyer in my family. So yeah, so we're first generation. So we didn't have anybody that we could talk to and find out what it's like. My first law job was in law school.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think that
at your seminal firm. Yeah.
that's right. That's exactly right. So my thing is, try to seek out, and it's a lot easier now than it was when we were coming up, because you have the internet. So try to find law firms or lawyers in your geographical area that you could intern for, that you could clerk for. There's tons of things that you could do in a law firm as a young person that have nothing to do with the law, but you can still be around it.
Yeah, I'll say this. I know a friend of mine, his name's Brian Woolfolk. He was an attorney, and he gave me advice on applying to law school and whatnot. And he flat out told me, he says, when you get to law school, you're going to have classmates whose grandfather and father were lawyers, and they're going to know what to do. They're going to know what to say. They're going to know what to study, and they're going to have a foundation for absorbing the law and understanding the law better than you. But don't worry, you'll catch up. I think that's great advice in telling a person to explore the law by finding a internship and or a position in a firm to learn about it. I think that's great advice.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Have you provided opportunities for internships in your firm?
Yeah, we do so all the time. We do so every year. There's a program called Axel. They didn't have it this year, but as long as we've been open as a firm, we've taken Axel students that are interested in the law. And
that's ACTSO, right? AXO?
I don't know the acronym. I just know, okay. Yeah. It's actually the vice president of Methodist Hospital, Denise Dillard, is the person that's over the program. And, it used to be in conjunction with the city of Gary, and also the city of Gary would have their summer opportunity programs that they would feed us students, and we would take students and have them doing clerical things, filing, and we did that every year. And most recently, we just had a gentleman who's ironically my fraternity brother, a young Kappa Alpha Psi brother, that was looking for a job opportunity, and I provided him with an opportunity because he's thinking about becoming a lawyer at some point. So he just called me up and said he wanted to work, and we gave him that opportunity part-time. So we give opportunities to young people all the time, because my thing is I want to give people the same opportunity that I didn't have, because
Right. Exactly.
I didn't have it.
Yeah.
I didn't have it. So,
Right.
and you never know, how that could change a person's life if they were exposed to, a law firm when they were like 18 or 19,
Mhm.
maybe they decide they don't want to be a lawyer, but it could also give them a jump start when they do decide to go to law school, if that's still their purpose.
What skill would you tell a person to develop prior to applying for or going to law school or wanting to become a lawyer? What skill outside of school should that person develop?
I would say outside of school, I would say, I don't know if this is still within school, but I say comprehension, reading comprehension is very
Reading. That's the number one thing for me. Reading. Yeah. Why reading?
Because you have to read. So you remember when we were in law school, like the amount of reading that we had to do?
Yeah. I have a funny story about that, but go ahead. Yeah.
So it's like not only reading, but being able to quickly digest what you're reading to be able to understand what it means and be able to apply it. I think that's the key. And I find myself, even in my practice today, I might be able to read 100-page deposition in an hour and know the gist of what it is and know enough to be able to cross-examine somebody.
Or look forward and say, did they ask this question?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. Funny story. So I've had the fortunate pleasure of having, I think, 11 or 12 law clerks, and then also a couple of employees leave and go to law school. And the funniest thing recently is one of my legal assistants went to law school, and I called her just to check her out and see how she was doing in her first month. Her name is Amanda. And I said, "How you doing?" She goes, "They're having us read 800 pages, 600 pages a night, and I'm up till 1. What are they doing to this?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And she goes, "Is that normal?" I said, "Yeah, that's normal." And I'd be up, class might end at 6,
Yeah.
or 4. I'd eat dinner, maybe work out, relax.
Yeah.
And then after dinner, I was reading till 1 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah, it was crazy.
And then God forbid, well, I think all of us had an 8 o'clock class, right?
You did. Civ
And
Pro.
some sleep, and then you go to class. And then you had to be prepared if your school or if your professor adhered to the Socratic method.
That's exactly right. Professor Smoot. Remember him?
I remember one of our friends didn't do reading and got caught.
Right.
And our friend said, "I didn't do the reading." And Professor Smoot said, "Okay, you didn't do the reading." And he goes, "Tell me about the facts."
Yeah.
And I didn't do the reading. And he said, "I understand that you didn't do the reading. Open up your book to this page. And what's the name of the case? This." And he's like, "All right, what is this case about?" "I didn't do the reading." And he goes, "I said you didn't do the reading." And he's turning red-faced, right? And then he goes, "From now on, you will be read and prepared to be called upon when you're in my class."
That's right.
You gotta read. You gotta read. Do you suggest that a person deciding to go to law school read any particular type of material, or is just reading in it itself good enough?
I think reading in of itself is good enough. Because I think that when you become a reader, you develop natural comprehension skills. So I know when I was going into law school, people were saying that I should take Latin. I don't necessarily know if that's needed, because
I had the Black's Law Dictionary right by side.
Exactly. And the internet now.
Huh?
And the internet now.
Yeah, you got the internet, yeah.
But I say any type of reading, as long as it's not romance novels, something
Right.
with a little bit of substance, and you should be fine,
Right. Next question. If a person is deciding to open their own practice and they want to open a practice with their wife, what would you tell them to do that you may not have done?
What would I tell them to do that
Like
I think,
hindsight being 2020 vision, is there anything that you would have done differently?
that's a really good question. I'm trying to think about that.
If not, that's if you did everything right, what did you do specifically right, and what would you tell them to do?
Okay, all right. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I was gonna say I don't think I would have done anything different. I think we planned this thing out like, business plan, everything. So I can't say that there's something that I'm like, man, I wish I'd have done X, because I think we checked every box for the most part. But I would say for someone who wants to start a law firm with their wife, the thing that we did pretty aggressively was we saved tons and tons of money, like to the point where we stopped for about 2 years. We didn't invest in our 401ks.
Okay.
The money that we would invest normally in our 401k plans, we put that into a savings account, and the goal was to have basically, a savings built up until we cash flow. So like our first 2 months of having our firm open, we had no cash flow, because the bills were, yeah. So we needed to be able to pay household bills and make sure that, things were being paid at home. So we needed to have money, a cushion basically saved. So that is the first thing that I would tell people to do, is to make sure that you aggressively save so that you have a cushion. And I would say the other thing that I would suggest that they make sure that they have is a good practice management software.
Okay. What's practice management software do you use?
We use a software called Practice Master and Tabs.
Okay. Tabs. I know that was an older one. I use one called Clio and Bill for. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Clio. We looked into Clio, but we were sold on Tabs and Practice Master. Those kind of work for us a lot better.
Why Tabs and Practice Master?
Well, we like the way that we could.
First of all, what do they do, and why do you need them?
Well, a lot of our insurance clients have what's called L codes and A codes. So what I like about Practice Master and Tabs is that they have those built-in codes. So it allows us to be efficient.
And what are built-in codes for?
It's so what some institutional clients have moved to a coding format for their bills. So
like, how do lawyers get paid? That's how you get paid, right? With a bill.
That's how you get paid. That's exactly right. So like maybe 20, 30 years ago, you used to be able to just send an invoice and then the people pay it. But now they have to see codes. They have to see activity codes. So an L code would be the activity, and an A code, the L code would be the subject matter. So plan and prepare would be an L code, whatever that code is. And then the A code would be the actual activity, and it would be deposition, discovery, trial, or whatever the case is. So what I like about Practice Master and Tabs is that those codes are built into the software. So it's integrated not only into your system, but into Outlook, which is what we use. So like, for example, if I send an email to a client, it automatically pushes me to Practice Master and Tabs, and it creates a invoice, like a log, and then I could bill for each activity that I do right when I'm doing it. And it eliminates the paper. Like in my old firm, I used to actually we had handwritten paper that we give it to the secretary type the invoice and we'll send it out.
Right.
But this basically, it's paperless. It's very efficient, very streamlined.
Right. And it's important to send these bills out. Why? That's how lawyers get paid, right?
That's how we get paid.
Our time.
That's right. And if you don't have the proper code for a lot of clients, they will reject the bill. They won't pay it. So
right. And then finally, what is your ideal client, and what type of clients do you like? Like with specificity, what's your ideal client?
My ideal client, I'm a nerd, man, when it comes to law. So I like clients that have really interesting issues, so a lot of institutional corporate clients that might have labor issues or that might have unique litigation issues. Like we have an airport client that has a lot of interesting issues, a lot of aviation issues that, you know, I just think is fascinating, you know.
So did you have a background in aviation before you took on that client?
I did not. I had to learn it.
Right. So that's one of the things I always point out to people, and you know, the moniker of our show is Attorney Knows Best, is that lawyers are expert learners because we're able to read and comprehend it maybe the first time.
That's true.
Aviation client. And how did you get that client?
Well, that client was the city of Gary basically has appointments to the airport board.
Okay.
So the board basically reached out once we opened our firm, and they were looking for a lawyer that was pretty steeped in litigation because they had a lot of litigation that was going on at the airport at the time. So that was right up our alley because that's pretty much our bread and butter is litigation. And that's how we basically got that client. But what I learned over the years from representing an airport is I learned a whole area of law, which is, you know, what FAA assurances are and grant assurances and all the things that impact airports. And it was just it's fascinating to me. I learned something new. It's in my toolbox. And I like things like that. You know, I don't like the kind of the run of the mill every day.
I don't like running. Like I call it Mick Law. Like
That's right.
You can have a successful firm and have like 25 can motions.
That's right.
Not deviate from it, but you give your client an opportunity to be heard, either resolve the case before trial or be prepared for trial on your can motions. It's Mick Law. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. That's exactly right. And so it's just I like those types of clients. And I also like, you know, that's more of the business corporate client. But with the individual clients, I like helping people.
Yes.
So like when people, business owners have problems where they've been sued or they need to sue, I like those cases because I tell you, man, when you help an individual person or a small business owner or a family-owned business, those people are your friends for life. They call you, they send you cookies around Christmas. And, you know, like the big corporate clients don't, you know, you win the case, that your reward is a new file or a new case. But
right.
when you win a case for a family-owned business or an individual business owner that has an issue, a unique issue, or somebody that's been injured, you know, you see that a lot, or we see that a lot. If you can help people through those problems, then they're your friends for life, and they send you more business.
Right.
So
that's excellent. Are there any questions you'd like to ask of me with regards to practice or to follow up, something you'd like to clarify?
Yeah, I would just say, man, I'm just impressed with, you know, how your practice has grown and how you've grown as a lawyer and as a man over the years, man. And I'm just awfully proud of you. And I thank you for your brotherhood and your friendship. And, you know, me and you probably talk more than we talked in law school. You know, we were friends in law school, but we talked more now.
I always tell people, and they're like, well, that's a really expensive hourly rate. And I go, not in consideration of the amount of time and effort I put in to learn 2,000 years of law.
That's right.
Sometimes I have to point on my shelf. I say, you see that shelf full of books? And they go, yes. And I said, well, that's all right up in here. And it's priceless.
Yeah. So what about how's your practice going?
Oh, my practice is going well. I mean, knock on wood, I built an effective team. I have a great associate attorneys that work with me. I have a great legal assistant. And fortunately, you know, I've been blessed to win a lot of new clients, even during COVID-19. During COVID-19, some people need lawyers even more than when the pandemic began. And we're lucky that we're available and we're answering the phone and making ourselves available. If somebody needs a lawyer, I'm happy to take it. If your case is controversial, other lawyers have said no. and you're writing a check, I'll take it, because at the end of the day, the system only works if we have lawyers that are willing to take controversial cases and advocate upon the behalf of an individual who may not be popular and or their issue may not be popular. So because I'm willing to take stuff that other attorneys aren't, we're doing okay.
That's good, man. And I'm continuously praying for you and your family and your practice. And are you still doing the same? What is your practice area? What are you practicing?
So outside of the podcast, my practice area covers anything a person might own. I like to say from the womb to the tomb. If you want to start a business, we can help you do that. If you want to start a company, we can help you do that. If you have a dispute with somebody over something you own or a contract, we can help you do that. If you need a contract written. So if you own it, you want to transfer it, and you own it and you want to dispute it, we'll help you. So wills, trusts, estates, business, real estate, and bankruptcy. And somebody goes, you have all those areas? And I go, yeah, they're all related. One of the interesting things about bankruptcy is that it covers your whole life and your whole ownership interest in any and everything. Bankruptcy covers it.
Right.
And, we're I wouldn't say we're a full service firm because we don't do personal injury, medical malpractice, or criminal law. Those are just not my bailiwick, and things that I'm not really passionate about. But anything else within the bounds of the law, we're willing to help you with, because it's law is a interrelated subject area. And you working for like a client like the airport, you get to see it firsthand, right? All the issues that you have to deal with: real estate, federal regulation, local regulations, customer service, slip and fall, right?
That's right.
If there's some kind of criminal liability on the airport premises, right? There's all these things that you have to weigh and balance, and so our firm kind of is the same way, but we're not as large in our coverage areas as your firm is. In closing, Mike, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity, taking some of your valuable time. I think you're like $800 an hour, and our audience is getting the benefit of your insight and experience. And I'd like to thank you for taking time out to come on Attorney Knows Best. I couldn't have asked for a more important guest for my inaugural show. One of the foremost legal leaders in the state of Indiana, and especially Northwest Indiana, and a esteemed distinguished graduate from the Valparaiso University School of Law. I always say, if somebody's calling me from out of state looking for a lawyer, I always say, find somebody that went to Valparaiso University, hire them. They're going to know the law. It's not going to be esoteric. It's going to be real, and they're going to be able to serve you and satisfy you and get to the bottom of your problem.
That's right. Yeah.
So in closing, if you want to get hold of Michael Tolbert and Shelice Tolbert at Tolbert & Tolbert in Gary, Indiana, how would the type of clients you want get hold of you?
They can give us a call at 219-427-0094 is our number.
Say that again.
219-427-0094 is our number. Or you could look at our website, which is it's Tolbert Legal, www.tolbertlegal.com. And all of our information is there, our contact information, our practice areas, the bios of the lawyers and what we do, our mission statement, which I've shared earlier with you, as well as our kind of our philosophy as it relates to fee structure, and our practice is all there for you to kind of take a look at and set up an appointment with us. We'd be happy to talk to you through your problem. If we cannot help you, we pride ourselves on trying to find someone who can help you, because lawyers don't do everything. Some lawyers do certain things, and sometimes they issue referrals, and we're very keen at making sure that we get the person the right help that they need. So,
right. And do you have social media links?
Yep. So we have our Twitter handle is Tolbert Legal. So you could go there at Tolbert Legal. And our Facebook page is Tolbert. It's Tolbert Law on the Facebook page. It's there. Search it. You'll be able to find it. Tolbert and Tolbert. And our LinkedIn is the same. It's just the firm name. So follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And we don't accept clients over social media, but you could call the office and we'll help you out any way that we can.
Definitely. No attorney-client relationships are established over social media. So be careful. If you need to hire him, call him at his 219 number and find him on the web at tolbertlegal.com. So, hey, Michael, I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to interview you, and I appreciate you being forthright and frank and being willing to reveal yourself and how you can help serve those in need. And your insight, advice, and experience, I'm sure, is going to go a long way. If you want to know, you'd ask. If you want to know best, you ask Michael Tolbert, attorney at law, because after all, attorney knows best. Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to speaking with you soon. Stay confident, stay up, and much continued success, Michael Tolbert.
Thank you, my brother. I appreciate you, man.
Be sure to tell Shelice I said hello.
I will. I'll tell her you said hi.
All right. Have a great, powerful week.
You too.
Thanks. Bye.
Attorney knows best.